Greetings, ladies and Mendeljets, and welcome to this latest episode of Tales from Outer Space, where I take a space-related story from around the internet and read it out loud for your enjoyment. All the relevant links are down below. Please don't forget to do the usual YouTube gumph, because if you don't, the nanite swarms will steal your other sock. But more importantly, as always, I hope that you enjoy. I'd quickly like to thank the following Tier 5 patrons and channel members for supporting the channel: Datamagnet and Bob the Dragon. Thank you very much. The Energy Trade, written by Lost Carcosan. It wasn't always easy, reflected Gashborn, running the biggest trading hub in this arm of the galaxy. Some 30 to 40 different species came through every sweep, some to sell goods, some to buy, others journeying to a new home, and some just there to experience the fun of life on the cutting edge of the galactic trade here in Atramonsk Station. He had his mandibles full, juggling the countless problems that could crop up on any large hub not owned by a single species. At this moment, there were 283 ships docked with the station, and another dozen awaiting to open berth to link up, and 3 of those were from particularly high-cost races. Someone else would need to be forced to make room. There were 4 different religious races. Someone else would be forced to make room. There were 4 different religious festivals going on in different wings of Atramonsk. Grashborn had spent quite a bit of time making sure that the Kolenma festival, celebrating the defeat of the Wezentiki, was held as far away from the Wezentiski festival, celebrating the destruction of the Kolenma home system as possible. It helped that nearly half of the various sentient beings currently aboard were busy with the Athna Tabascan, paean of the gods of food, music, and reproduction. But that included much of the station's own staff. Gashborn had to personally help security stop one of the all-too-common fights that start when one species' time-honored cultural trading practices was another's "You're trying to cheat me, you self-pollinating punk." It had been a long cycle, and his lower rock-crushing jaws were sore from slamming heads together to help cool down angry tempers. He really would just wanted to get back to his quarters, take a rest, and grab a gut of Schleckboat, then maybe see if he could free up some time for the end of the Athna Tabashkan party. So when Gashborn's assistant sent a message through to him that some unregistered new species of alien was having some kind of payment dispute with the Dremling sector, Gashborn really wasn't in the mood. Still, he thought, Dremling is a big upper middle class trading species, and staying aware of every new alien trading in this arm of the galaxy is an important part of keeping Atramonsk Station as a place to be. So Gashborn propelled himself down the corridor, leaving his security chief to finish explaining that things will go much smoother in the future if any trade agreement rituals that involve each party consuming a symbolic part of their own goods, as explained before, biting chunks out of nanobot swarms that you just sold. While drifting towards the Dremling's location, he messaged his assistant back. "Tell me that this isn't some idiotic money-using species problem." Gashborn was really tired of species who are smart enough to think up clever idea of a currency to facilitate exchanging goods, but stupid enough to assume that there's any constant exchange rate that would be accepted between the dozens of different alien tradings on the station. Even if you can work something out with a relatively stable trading partner, it could be completely worthless by the time you reach a new system. Atramonsk Station doesn't use symbolic representations of value. If you want to trade here, you either barter or you use one of the constant values between all matter, energy. Not the promise of energy, but actual light, heat, or pressure. It's the one thing that is always universal. But some low-cost primitives that don't have enough personal energy to ever really learn to build proper storage methods try to convince other species that tokens or data representing energy are as good as the real thing. This is a garbage idea, and the Gashborn is annoyed every time he has to explain this to yokels that they've managed to show up at a trade center with nothing of value. The reply from his assistant is both worrying and confusing. It might be. Humans seem to be trying to give the merchants something useless that they insist should work as payment, but they've already given the Dremlings 12 times what they would normally charge before they even ask about the price. The Dremlings aren't sure if they're being honored, pitied, or insulted, or if this is some really weird con artist scheme where they demand the real payment back for a fake one. And they want a mediator here. I'm not sure what these humans want. Have you met them before? Are we supposed to keep the gases they are spewing all over, or give them back? Gases? Did these humans communicate by spewing clouds of gas particles at each other? That wouldn't be the first species Gashborn had encountered that did that, but those conversations always felt so messy. He reached the Dremling sector, where it seemed someone had set up a temporary set of double doors, probably trying to keep all those gases inside. As soon as the second set of doors opened, Gashborn was struck by a wave of pressure. This compartment was flooded with gases, and it was way too hot for a normal merchant store. What was going on? The first being Gashborn saw was a Dremling merchant. It was standing on a clutch of legs, anxiously rubbing its antennae together when it saw him. "Honored Station Administrator," the Dremling started speaking with relief. "Thank you for coming to help with the settlement of the situation. My reputation as a merchant is very important to me, and I appreciate an official of your stature to take the time to visit and ensure the trading going on here is conducted without confusion or deceit on either side." Gashborn gave the Dremling a short bow of equals, which was the kind of slightly more polite than he needed to be gesture that kept Gashborn popular amongst the regulars of the station. "Never a problem. It's my job to help settle these disputes and confusions that can crop up, especially when dealing with a new species. I'd like to hear your explanation of what has occurred here so far, and then I'll see if I can talk to the aliens and resolve this issue." Gashborn paused. The room was quite hot, even though he could see one of the merchant's heatsinks sitting unused in the corner. What was all this heat for? Also, what kind of gas did these creatures bring, anyway? "It's mostly nitrogen, Honored Administrator. That trace amounts of other chemicals. Nearly a quarter of it is oxygen, though." "Oxygen?" Gashborn interrupted. "This is a space station, not a comet. An explosion here in confined space could seriously damage the whole sector. And you've got so warm already, the stuff is just asking to ignite by accident." Gashborn grabbed his communicator, ready to call the rest of the security team. This was starting to look less like a trading deal and more like a hostage scenario. "I know, sir, but these humans told me that this was their preferred gas mix that they filled their own ship with, and they asked about sparks, and if it would cause me any problems before they released the gas. The trading was going fine until then. They were looking over my selection of mining tools, although they seemed to be saying their translators weren't properly working on my explanation for how to use them. They asked about the gases, implying that they were interested in buying from me and that if they could fill the chamber with air, they would be more than comfortable. I told them that yes, and soon after the gas filled the room and they started removing their outer coverings and throwing energy all over the place, mostly in all of this heat. Then they grabbed several tools and started asking what kind of money I would accept. I don't want some primitive money. The energy would be more than enough, but I can't get them to tell me clearly if they're actually offering it as a payment or not." The Dremel had begun ranting. Its nervousness was clear in the small, anxious jerks from its arms as it spoke. "They seem polite at first, but for all I know, they plan to keep heating this gas until it explodes and kills us all, if I don't agree to take the money. Please, Administrator, get them to tell me what they were actually paying, or get them to leave." "Of course, honored merchant. Let me speak to these humans, and I'm sure that we can get this whole thing worked out." Motioning to his assistant to follow, Gashborn went further into the store. "If I give the emergency signal, call Druskov and get the whole emergency crew down here," he told his assistant. "This is not a normal primitives with a money problem." As he passed around the corner into the shop proper, Gashborn got the first look at the humans. They were not what he had been expecting. You can't judge an alien by its looks, of course. But in his head, the humans had shifted between some group of ugly savages shocked by their first view of real civilization, to cunning opportunists, shifty and eager to exploit the better nature of their hosts. He was keeping an eye open for big rock-smashing muscles or concealed weapons. Instead, his first impression of the humans was surprising grace and unexpected delight. They stood tall and slender, nearly as high as Crashborn, but much thinner, almost like a lion. 2 legs, 2 arms, 1 head, mostly blue with white and black markings, although this was clearly some kind of uniform clothing covering them. The clothing stopped below their heads, which were exposed to the gas. There were 3 of them, each with a head in a different shade of skin, and thick blooms of softer coverings, or perhaps follicles on top. 2 dark black and 1 with golden yellow. But where their clothing stopped, they blazed with the heat, and light shimmered off of them almost in the infrared. All of the energy that had been dumping into the store was clearly not from some storage heatsink, but coming straight from themselves. It wasn't quite constant, but pulsing to a rhythm, like music. Even standing still, the humans seemed to move slightly, gases entering and exiting a set of small mouths in their face, still moving to that internal beat. When they saw him, the golden-headed one moved to approach. It opened its central mouth and displayed a set of polished white teeth that had clearly never been used to crunch through rock. Gashford didn't need a sudden chime of his translator turning on to tell him that it was starting to speak. The mouth opened, and although a little gas did come out, the speech wasn't packets of gas that he was supposed to ingest, or muscle movements that he was supposed to identify, or even simply radio waves. Vibrations were pouring forth from the human, crossing the gas to buzz against his skin. These humans spoke by making the very air dance their messages over to you. His translator began, doing the best it could with an unfamiliar new language and a mode of communication. "Hello," politeness, informality. "Station official, help us," query. "I, Captain McGullens, name or personal identifier of the gold metallic non-sentient animal. Ship name or designation associated with ship docked at port 137. Declaration. Station. Query. Translation not clear. Query. Atterman's station first initial approach was a communication. Declaration. End of communication." Well, honestly, Gashborn had heard worse first tries from the translator. It would get better as the conversation progressed, as long as it didn't get some key concepts wrong somewhere. The human speech had seemed so elegant, untranslated. He wondered if it had been meant to be poetry. He noticed that his assistant still seemed to be staring, mouth open, and did his best to respond. "Greetings, honored guests. I am Gashwan, Chief Administrator of Attermansk Station. This is the single largest trading station within 100 star distances, and we always welcome new species such as yourselves here. I am here to help with any trading or communication difficulties that you may have come up with here. I understand that you want this mining equipment." Here, Gashborn gestured slowly with one arm to the array of tools spread out on the table near the humans. They didn't particularly seem to go together. He had no idea what the humans were planning on using them for. There weren't any unclaimed comments anywhere near Attermansk these days, and there weren't any at all that would have a use for the industrial tungsten concentrator. "Are you offering the good merchant here all of this heat in return?" A thought struck him. "Or perhaps are you trying to trade him this gas? The Dremlings don't use oxygen or nitrogen in these quantities. He would probably prefer some amount of this heat." There was a pause while the humans looked at a small device that was probably their translator, and then all the 3 of them turned to face him, revealing again those gleaming teeth. His translator was telling him that this was probably a positive response and not a threat display. Gashborn wasn't sure that he could imagine these beings being threatening. They seemed more like music made fresh, and they still hadn't ceased or even showed their rhythmic heating of the atmosphere. They were communicating with each other too fast for the translator to catch up, and Gashborn wondered if they were singing. The gentle vibrations of their speech slowed as they oriented towards him and the translator picked it up, hopefully with increasing accuracy. "Pleasure to meet you, Gashborn. Yes, affirmative. Desire mine. Jewelry, art. We have traveled, numeric large. Distance to see, explore, communicate, meet Atramansk Station. Our home is locational, probable error, too close to star for life. We think translation error, heat, gas, money occurring. Gas made of nitrogen, oxygen, carbon, oxygen 2 is gift, offering, output waste, not valuable. Gas not intended as heat, money, unclear. We have sufficient stores on ship located on port 137. Give merchant money, desire. Knowledge insufficient merchant money request, query. Iascarian credits, query. Z script, query. The merchant desires gold, unfamiliar with local trading method, declaration. Help appreciated. End of communication." At this, Galvorn's assistant managed to break the silence. "These creatures use money. They move and speak like living calligraphy, but, Gashborn, sir, is your translator broken? They have energy enough to spare that they are spitting it everywhere, like they want to bribe us, and the translator says they think that you can trade with money in a civilized place like this. What kind of beings are they, acting like low castes with the resources of high castes?" Suddenly, it clicked together in Gashborn's head. The long travel distance, the suggestion from the translator that they lived practically inside a nuclear furnace of a star. "Assistant Devar, these humans may be the highest caste species to ever visit Atramansk. The energy they're handing us right now is merely them setting this room to a comfortable equilibrium. They may not even notice it. They come from the very edges of a star. They aren't offering money because they don't have any heat and need to trade representations of it. They are offering money because they think we are so low class that we've never handled enough raw energy to appreciate it on the levels that they must use. To the humans, we must look like savages out in the cold edges of space. They stuff their ships with explosive gas, heedless of the risk, just for the beauty of having a dance to the words. Go tell the merchant that the humans are paid with the heat here, and won't care if that's more than he wants." Now the Grashwan understood the aliens. The solution to the problem was obvious. The humans were not going to miss the infrared photons that they were throwing around, and weren't going to angrily ask the merchant to return the energy that they'd left out. His assistant rushed back with an okay from the Dremling, and Gashwan turned back to Captain Magellan's, giving a deep bow of respect to superiors. "First-time visitors to our station are always welcome, and we thank you for traveling so far. You do not need to worry about paying the merchant any money. He asks that you take these tools as a gift for your presence in his shop. May I help take them to your ship and give you a tour of the many fine parts of Atramansk Station?" A sudden, happy thought struck Gashborn. "Your visit has excellent timing. The Ethnotabascan paean to the gods of food, music, and reproduction is currently ongoing. I would be honored to guide such an honored visitors as yourselves to view the celebration." The human translator must have also been developing, because as soon as he finished speaking, all there was once again revealing their glowing smiles. "Sure. Thank you for your help, and we would love to check out your Ethnotabascan party." 6 days later, the Golden Hind undocked from the Atramansk station, loaded down with gifts from the local merchants, and carrying a tired but a happy crew. Sitting in her cabin, Captain Fernanda Magallans was composing the latest section of the Traveler's Guide to the Milky Way. Atramansk Station 9 out of 10, but BYOA. Bring your own air. Atramansk Station is a long way from human space, or even any stars at all, and most of the aliens there are vacuum dwellers born on isolated comets. But don't let the cold hallways give you the wrong impression. This was the warmest welcome we received anywhere in the interior arm. If you're passing through the area, it's a definite must-see. There are some great alien sculpture artists who work in stone and metal, sometimes directly with their hands and claws. There is also a terrific party scene called Atramansk Boskan, although even the locals seem to think the radio wave music isn't as exciting as actual sound. we might have accidentally started a new trend. Expect your translators to take a few days to really connect. We still aren't sure if there's a tradition here of everyone giving gifts to new travelers, or if they really liked humans. Not a single art gallery we tried to buy from would take any money at all, and they really liked humans. Everyone wanted to spend as much time as possible with us, and the most frequent comment we got from the locals was, "Wow, you humans are hot." End of story. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed, and if you do, please consider supporting the author, even by popping over and leaving a thumbs up or a nice comment, just to show your appreciation for the story. However, if you wish to support this channel, there are links down below which will help immensely. I will see you all in the next one, and until then, I hope that you have a fantastic day. Cheers.